Sorry, I had to just had to tweet something. It was the right time. Well, hello, Paige. Fancy meeting you here. You be sorry. Three people already. Wow, this thing's really catching on. Just wait till there's 1,000. One left. People show up expecting, I don't know, juggling. I don't know. Some form of entertainment, I guess. sorry, distracted. There was the timing was had to be done now. Callie says hi. Hi, Callie. Satchidananda is a cat purring. Solution finder. We're gonna have to change your name. I don't I don't think you're seeking anymore, are you? Solution specialist. All titles are for the audience. So I don't think time and space belong together. I think that it's like body mind. They don't mix. But like if they did actually go together, it wouldn't be called space time, it'd be called Fred. You see what I It's not like just like the body mind. Body mind isn't body mind. Body mind is the superposition of spirit. So if space is expanding, then time must be contracting. So I believe that time is contracting, and that contraction is the indication of how close we are to the singularity. Yeah. So what is Yeah, space-time doesn't work. It's why is it called space-time? It's like saying no thing. Space awareness time. Yeah. Yeah, it's another one of these dualistic, incorrect dualistic models. Yeah. So if space is expanding, then time must be contracting. And the contraction of this time, so the voice in your head is the future, your future's ego. So that means that that reality, that realm is getting closer in time to the singularity. Like we are approaching the end of this iteration. Can you can you work with these models to just develop something completely new in cosmology? Wouldn't that be cool? Because if you've got the proper model, then you can work with it, with the language of it, to make it make sense in the field that you're talking about. I bet you are. Yeah, man. Like this is the big crunch, right? Like isn't this in a way the end of physical experience? So it's the end of the physical world. And the fact that we have thoughts is the next iteration. It's just voices in the head. Yeah. Black holes and white holes, that's it. Like that's the metaphor that physics has produced for the triune system, right? It's all metaphor. Even a physical black hole is metaphor of self, of the triune system. I think if also you were to like adopt all of my model, of course, but the many worlds, the multiverse, if it's all just here and just every single, well, you can start with humans, every human experience, every human life is its own world. So then you can get away from the multiverse. It doesn't have to be other than this experience that we're having. Like the multiverse isn't describing our universe, it's describing a fantasy world. So if you were to just keep everything within this universe, then what they're describing as a multiverse is just an inverted view because there's one awareness having multiple experiences. So there isn't a singular world, there's multiple worlds, and that's what they're trying to express is that your world is your world. And this is what quantum mechanics is saying, right? Is that the moon isn't in one person's world, but the moon is in another person's world, and they're just overlapping in some way. But they're different worlds. Your world is your world, my world is my world. Okay, yeah. So a white hole would project, right? Like a white hole, a black hole just sucks everything in, and a white hole pushes everything out. So this is what I'm saying is that when I say that the senses project the world, they don't detect the world, right? Dude, we're gonna figure this shit out. You and me. Fuck those academics. Oh, you're an academic, sorry. Quasi academic. Yeah, so I think this would all fit together, right? Like if you put this model all together in one congruent, this is the way it is, and this is how we're going to explain things, because you have to have limits. You can't just say, oh, you just can't just say, oh, everything's infinite and then shrug your shoulders and walk away, right? So everything's contained within this experience, the experience of thoughts and sensations. There's no need to extrapolate some sort of multiverse, right? So everything's contained here in your direct experience. And the multiverse is actually the materialistic inverted view of trying to explain how everyone is the god of their own universe and every single life is its own universe, right? And then yeah, like and then this could do away with solipsism too, right? It's only your universe that dies when you die. And then we also say that the senses do not detect the world, the senses project the world. That makes so like that alone solves the dualism of a force, of a particle and a force, right? There's no separation between the world and the senses, so there can't be a force that's making things move around. This is pretty exciting. Like if you get something really concrete and your professor already agrees with you in some respects, so you could be breaking shit open, man. It's pretty cool. I've always been so interested in cosmology and physics, so this is my jam. That's good. Each, I guess Donald Hoffman would call them conscious agents, but then where do you draw that line? I think e- every phenomenon that has a beginning or and like every experiential phenomenon is its own world. So maybe this is what quantum fluctuations are, the quantum foam is that it's these worlds, like literally the rising and passing of a subatomic particle is its own world, and it just doesn't develop very relatively long. It relative to this world, it doesn't last very long, but it's all just the arising and passing of universes, of potentialities, of possibilities within the potential, right? So there's the potential, and then there's the quantum fluctuations, and then there's with language those quantum fluctuations collapse the wave particle into the appearance of actual separately existing objects. Yeah, that's good language. And there's something to do with the definition, right? The measurement, whether it's a literal like scientific measurement with numbers and shit, or just words. Words to me are measurements, and that collapses the wave function to bring about the appearance of definite things. But they're definite only because they've been defined, right? They're not their inherent state is not defined. But when the measurement is made, it it becomes relatively defined, right? So there is the appearance of separately existing objects. But if no words, no measurements, no biases are made, then you just experience the wave function. The whole the everything occurring at once. That's the wave function. Everything happens at once, like the frames of a film. Each frame of the film is everything arising at once, right? That it's an illusion that the things within the image within each frame is actually has a causal relationship with itself, right? It doesn't, even though it looks like a car is smashing into another car, or there's a fist fight or whatever in that frame of each film, none of that's happening, right? It's just static. And then another frame comes up, and that gives the appearance of movement and causation within the frame. So the panned out experience of it, perspective, is that the world, everything arises at once. Obviously, so it's almost impossible to happens at once. So yeah, I guess the wave function is less is it's a vague description of the physical world and a very specific description of the thought world, of the mathematical world, which is all thought. So that which is precise mathematically is the ultimate in vagueness physically. Hey, you want one down? But without looking at it as the superposition without having that middle column, it's like not having an equal sign. It's like having an equation, right? With no equal sign. That the middle column is the equal sign that all other theories and models are lacking, right? They're dualistic. It's just got body, mind, wave function, particle, future, past. It doesn't have the equal sign. So how can you have an equation that will find balance if there's nothing that equals them out? Right? Like the simplistic way of looking at this reveals that all the complexity is just fucking bullshit. Right? Like you need an equal sign in an equation. And if you don't know the stillness, the frame of reference upon which all of this is arising and passing, then they don't even recognize the equal sign, right? So you're working with an equation without an equal sign. Turtles, turtles, turtles. It's me and Callie, and I don't have a job, and I don't think about anything else. this is what I do, and I understand everything. It almost fucking hurts sometimes how much I know. Yeah, for sure. I just wish mathematicians would stop believing that math is relating to the physical world somehow. It's not. It's just the way it's revealing the fundamental process of awareness coming back onto itself as mind. Again, there's no equal sign to mitigate or arbitrate between, to express the state of superposition. So there, it's the reality is the state of superposition, and everyone's trying to figure it out from a state of duality without the fucking equal sign. You can't have something that's moving as the frame of reference, and thoughts, mind, and physicality is always on the move. So any theory of relativity, sorry, buddy, but it's gonna be wrong. It's wrong. Well, the metaphor, right, is that if if the fundamental model of reality is looked at as an equation, then in order to have that equation balanced out, you need the middle column, which is the equal sign, relatively speaking. Yeah, or any type of mitosis, right? And then you play that backwards, and it's the opposite. It's unity, right? Everything. If you play that in reverse, it appears as though everything's moving back towards unity. And this is basically what, I guess this is what you cosmologists do, is you just rewind the film, you play it in reverse, and then it appears as though everything's right. The That's crazy. So going forward, it looks like there's two worlds, the mommy and the daddy, coming together to create one world. And then if you reverse that, the one world bifurcates as mommy and daddy in the reverse. But it can't be on the same level, right? It's all metaphor. It can't be, right? There's a transcendence. The transcendence part of it is important, is that the source cannot be part of the system. So that's why that analogy breaks down, right? All analogies that are using one plane of existence, one realm, the same plane to experience all of it, is going to be turtles all the way because of this, its superposition, right? Is that it's the source, the absolute, is indefinable and not on the same plane or level as the dualities. So yeah, so that's what's going on, right? Is that this reductionism, or playing it backwards, I guess, is it goes from plurality, right? Plurality to duality, which is what mind, body, yin yang, the of the fundamental model of reality. It goes from plurality that to duality, and then to unity, right? And that's where it has to end. That's where it ends. It ends in the unity, but the in order for it to conclude, that which is seeking must do the conclusion, right? You at the end of it, if you want it to end and conclude, from the plurality to the duality to the unity, you have to accept that the unity is indefinable. That's it. That's as close as you can get, right? And that is the realization that that's as close as we can fucking get. So and then it's the one step path, right? Once you come to that realization, all seeking stops, because you're just going to create more duality if you keep trying to understand the unity, right? If you keep trying to define the unity, it'll just keep popping out the dualities, which is what my fundamental model of reality is saying. Like, holy shit, right? Like, this is it. It's so fucking simply obvious and elegant. I just can't fucking believe that more people aren't onto this by now. Fuck, are you serious? It's so obvious. I'm a little, I had a lot of coffee, so maybe I'm a little wired today, but fuck, I'm getting fucking, what's wrong with these people? It all starts and ends in singularity, and the self is the singularity. There's only one singularity, right? So due to dark energy, we have the universe accelerating in its expansion. So that's anti-gravity, right? There's obviously a repelling force. The universe will continue to accelerate until all the galaxies are too far away for us to detect. Dark energy is basically the quantum foam. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, though, is that is, let's say that the physical world, the physical realm is expanding, space is expanding, so time is contracting. And it's the rate at which it's contracting is probably exponential. And that's why within 2 decades from now, this is all different, right? It's going to, this iteration will end, and that which took itself to be human consciousness will be looking out of that camera instead of into it. And that's going to happen within the next 20 years or so. So there's going to be some crazy shit happening in the skies, right? Like, literally, I wouldn't be surprised if stars start just disappearing. Like, oh, we can't see this star anymore, right? Like, there's going to be some crazy shit going on in the cosmos. It's freaking wild. And there's something about humanity and human consciousness that's the same as gravity, right? Like, look at the clumps of cities, look at the way in which people have moved out of the rural areas. It's exactly like the microwave background noise, right? Or how matter is becoming more clumpy because of gravity. But the way human consciousness works is that it's exactly like gravity. This is why cities are coming together, right? So then at some point, the gravity of that collective consciousness collapses in on itself. Holy shit! And this is what's happening with the digital realm. It's the same freaking thing, isn't it? Like, the human consciousness, which could be equated to be time, right? Time is thought. So the collective human consciousness of mind is producing the gravity that creates a mental, if you will, black hole, and we're going to get sucked into that fucking thing. They're parallel systems, right? What's going on with the cosmos and what's going on with human consciousness and the human species are again mirroring each other. So we know what's going to happen with human consciousness. It's gravitating towards itself, and then it's creating this. We cannot pull our attention away from this fucking thing, can we? So that's it. This screen is the fucking black is the wormhole or whatever that we're getting sucked into. The funnel, the tunnel funnel that we're getting sucked into due to the gravity, the gravitational effects of all the humans coming together in cities. Holy shit. My friend Daniel is going to, yeah, we're going to have a good chat because he's all about this, how human consciousness is evolving into these systems. Oh, Jan, you just missed it, man. Or I think you're a guy. Anyway, you just missed it because I figured it out. Me and Solution Seeker just figured it all out, and you just missed it. I guess you'll have to watch the replay. It's the same old stuff, but it just felt to me like, holy shit, like this stuff, it just keeps revealing. It doesn't change, right? Nothing, the theory itself isn't changing. It's just showing how it expresses everything that's happening. So it's the scope of its vision is expanding, but the theory itself is not changing. It's what it is. It's a done deal. But it just keeps expanding and expanding and just revealing more and more and more of what's actually occurring. Not just these philosophers debating the philosophy that they've learned in school. It's just, I want to grab them by the scruff of the neck and just give them a shake and like, yeah, but no one's accepting it because it destroys everything that is currently accepted, right? So you cannot accept my model and the conventional model simultaneously, right? One destroys the other, reveals it to be false. So this is the big problem. The problem isn't understanding it, right? It's very simple to understand. I'm using normal, regular language and just the very basics of mathematics to explain all this. And it should be that way, right? Why would the language that can describe this physical world like so acutely, right? Just normal fucking language can describe the physical world that we experience of the senses so acutely. Why do we think it's unable to, that math has to take over the job somehow? Math is just describing the mind realm. It's not describing anything in this realm. Math is describing anything in the physical realm. It's this language, the language that I'm talking with, the audible. It's sound, it's actual physical sound moving. That is what's appropriate to describe this realm. Not mathematical symbols. The mathematical symbols written on a two-dimensional page, that is math. That's how math enters this world. It has no other relationship to this world other than the symbols that are on a page. And then those symbols can get can manifest into technology that basically is destroying the physical world. All of this starts with potential. Come on, Jan. You know the model. Everything, yeah, the conventional understanding of nothing or zero, that's where it all begins. But zero is not the lack of the numbers. It's the source of the numbers. Just like nothing isn't the lack of things, it's the source of things, and that's why we change it to potential. Everything starts and ends in the potential. My fundamental model of reality explains everything. It just does. If people would actually fucking study it, it would reveal itself like it's revealing itself to me, to actually be able to explain all that's occurring. And then you mix that in with the evolutionary number system, which shows how math is wrong and shows why it expresses as both discovered and invented simultaneously. You put these two models together, these two messages together, and that's it. It's all explicitly laid out for anyone who is genuinely sincere about figuring this shit out. It's all here. But if you don't try to understand it, you won't see it. If you don't focus on something to actually see it, you won't see it. Sorry, it's getting a little warm here. Solution seekers gonna just rip up cosmology here. Let's totally freaking turn it on its ass, on its head. Yeah. Yeah, he'll be given satsang. Solution seeker will be given satsang in this chair with Callie on his lap. No, I just don't see how any other theory, even if it's from the smartest man in the world, is going to make my theory more understandable or simplify it or make it more clear. To me, anything that's added onto this, it's like James trying to add on his thing, his triune thing onto my triune thing. It's like, no, your thing is just an extension of mine. It's not making anything clear. See, the problem, the tendency for any addition is to just make it more complicated, right? Right. So I don't want it to be okay. All right. Yeah. Well, they all do, right? Like it's like every single one of these theories. Like my theory is the elephant, right? You've probably heard this analogy before. Is that four blind people are feeling, or let's just say, yeah, four blind people are all touching a different part of an elephant. One person's feeling the tusk and says it's, it's smooth and firm like a rock, hard like a rock. That's what an elephant is. And another person is feeling the tail, and it feels like it's soft and kind of stringy. And then another person is feeling the trunk and describes the trunk, and another person feels the leg and says, no, an elephant is like a pillar, right? So my theory is the elephant, and all of these blind guys, sorry, all of their theories are the blind people describing that part of my theory that in seclusion. It has nothing to do with me. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Yeah, I think Hinduism. I think that I made a video of this. How but Hinduism that's boiled down to its most simple form, right? So just Atman and Brahman. Just forget all those other gods. Just forget everything else, and just focus in on Brahman and Atman, which is the relationship of 0 and 1, thing and nothing. This is the seed, 0 and 1, Brahman, Atman, looking into the mirror. That's me. I am not that. That's where it all starts. That is the seed from which even my fundamental model of reality actually comes from that seed of 0 and 1, Brahman, Atman. That's me in a mirror. I am not that. So yes, Hinduism, all of these systems of thought, but only at their very start, right? At their most fundamental arising, right at the start of it. You don't go more than one step past the start. That's it. It's just there it is. Because it's all the same metaphor, right? The metaphor of science is expressing the same thing as the metaphor of religion, but scientists don't think it's metaphor, right? They think it's fact. There is no fact. There's really no fact. There's no facts at all. It's all metaphor. Like literally, even the physical realm itself is metaphor. Like the people that are watching this, the handful of people that are watching this, you are involved right now in the final concluding theory. The greatest revolution in the history of humanity right now is being revealed to you. It's pretty exciting. So please don't just, after this is done, don't think, well, that was entertaining, and then just move on to the next freaking thing that's entertaining. Like, I'm not here to entertain you. Yeah, exactly. The theory eventually must be transmitted into experience. Otherwise, it's just more samsara, just more Maya. So yeah, it's that's why it's the concluding final theory, because it it actually leads to reality. And then you're done seeking because you found what you're looking for. People are just seeking for the sake of seeking. They're not really wanting to find. But that's what seeking is. Seeking is to find. And then the seeking is concluded once you've found. But most people don't even realize that the ego will try to avoid the finding. Because the conclusion of the seeking is the conclusion of the ego and the illusory sense of self. Oh, thanks. We just keep presenting non-conceptuality to people, and whoever are ready will accept it, and whoever are not ready will not accept it. And I have come to accept that those who are ready to accept it are very, very few. You're special people. More power to you, man. I mean, in a way, this is what I've envisioned for over a decade now, for at least a decade now, is that someone would actually adopt this as their field of study, right? Like actually study this theory in depth and incorporate it into conventional study. So you're the guy. It looks like you're the guy. Hey, it's Megan. Yes. Yeah. See, what physics has done is that they've studied the physical realm, which is the illusion. So physics can describe the illusion and it actually projects the illusion. So you can call it metaphor or you can call it an appearance or an image. But in order to realize that that's what you really are, the indescribable absolute, you need, it is required that you stop describing it, right? You be it, so you can't describe what you you can't be what you are while believing you're describing, by believing that the description is what you are. I don't know if that made any sense. In order to realize it, like to be what you are, you have to stop describing what you are, because the description of what you are is exactly not what you are. Well, I'm like, my theory is complete, right? So I'm not working on it anymore. So my job is to kind of just sit in stillness now. I think. but it also has to be not just metaphysics, but metamental, right? So Bernardo, the coward, has taken metaphysics to be mind, right? Because again, this is the video that got him blocking me shows how there isn't the language is not available, and this is to incorporate the spirit, the absolute, right? So metaphysics, because there isn't spirit allowed in the language of nothing and thing, then the only alternative to metaphysics is mind. But the reality is also meta mind, right? So let's I'm coined this word. I have coined a word. It's called meta mind or metamental. Which one? Metamental kind of sounds like elemental. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? Is that it's not metaphysics doesn't mean necessarily that it's mind. It's just that that's the only option available given the current language. So my model adapts that language so that now there's a third thing that's accessible, and that's the actual meta, which is both metaphysical and metamental. Metamental. I think meta mind, metamental. I think metamental. Yeah, but metacognition probably already has its own. No, we can't use a pre-existing word, I don't think, because metacognition will just someone's got an idea of what that is already, right? So it's just going to convolute things. Yeah, well, that's also a cop out, right? If you just use meta for everything, then that's almost like the multiverse. It's like, well, you're just fucking cheating, right? You're not. Mathematical metaphysics, yeah, blah 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 blah. That guy is just blobbity 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 blah. But the final thing, yeah, no, I like this. So metaphysics isn't doesn't mean like if reality is metaphysical, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's mind. It's just that the language doesn't provide the possibility of it to be anything else because spirit has just been totally taken out of the language, right? It's taken out of the equation. So all that's left is mind. But that's wrong too, because it's just the other side of the duality. It's just the other superpositional state of the reality. And the reality is metaphysical and metamental. What does the word meta mean anyway? Is it like super? Like just another word for super? You could call it Meta Man instead of Superman. Situated behind or beyond. Huh. Yeah, well that's the yeah, well that's the entire center column again, isn't it? Yeah, so the fundamental model of reality then is a meta map. Transcendence would be the process of going through to get to the beyond, the behind or beyond, right? So yeah, trans is the path, is the process taken to see beyond, right? To go beyond or see behind. That's transcendence. Makes sense? So you transcend to realize the meta. The transcendence of the system leads to the meta, whatever that system is, metaphysics. The transcendence, yeah. So, yeah, we need to, yeah, that's exactly it. We need to transcend physics. Yeah, metaphysics. It finally makes sense to me now. I always thought it was just, oh, it's one of these philosophical terms that I don't really give a shit what it means. But yeah, it's totally valid. But the transcendence of physics isn't mind. Metaphysics isn't psychology, right? Psychology is basically just the study of thoughts, of mind. So metaphysics isn't psychology. It isn't mind. So that's why we need meta mind as well as metaphysics. Because it's, again, I love the analogy of the curve, right? So you can't, if you go past, if you go if you convex, concave, metaconcave isn't convex. Metaconcave necessarily means metaconvex, and that's both curve. So meta metaconvex isn't concave. Metaconvex is curve, right? This is what I was trying to say to Coward there, Bernardo, is that it, you need to transcend idealism as well. Metaphysics. No, but it's meta. Well, I have it meta description, don't I? Like I literally used. What did I say? Meta singularity, didn't I? Isn't that what I used to describe? Yeah, I think that's the word I used to describe the relationship between Atman and Brahman, or Brahman and Atman, and 0 and 1 is the meta singularity. That's singularity. How's that for a word? Yes. So when you adopt this, when you look at things from thought-free awareness, it seems as though they just express themselves as they, I don't know, in their fundamental form or something, because everything just seems to click into place when you take this non-conceptual perspective. It just seems to go, oh well, it makes sense now. Yeah. Well, I understand Christianity better than 99.99999% of the Christians, and I'm not a Christian. Hi, how's my girl? Because yeah, like in Christianity, there's this thing, Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost, and yet they not hardly ever talk about the Holy Ghost, and yet it's as important in the Trinity as Christ, right? Because of the strong materialistic perspective that the has in Christianity also, right? Obviously, realistically based. So that's why Christ, the physical manifestation of God, of the absolute. But again, it's just like saying metaphysics. It's like there's no that they it's the equation isn't equally, there's a bias there, right? So Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost is as important to the Trinity as Christ, but no one really talks about the Holy Ghost, not nearly as they talk about Christ. Yeah, maybe you're a true Christian now. Well, you can see the truth is in Christianity, and you can make a distinction between the truth and the bullshit, because there's a lot of bullshit in Christianity, right? Most of it's bullshit that's been added on to what Christ actually said. And it's an interpretation of what Christ meant given by unenlightened people. So when an unenlightened person tries to interpret what an enlightened being said, they're going to fuck it up. And then another person will take that to be true and then fuck it up further with, and that's the way Buddhism went with all these adosh, like I don't know their names. I can't remember their names, but as people add on to Buddhism, as they added on to Buddhism along the way, they just fucked it up and made it more complicated as they added on to it, because Well, then it's not Buddha. It's not what. If you're elaborating on the teachings of an enlightened being, that's no longer the teachings of an enlightened being. That's the teachings of you. You can't call what these other dudes said after Buddha said stuff. You can't call that Buddhism anymore. Same with Christianity. All this writing, all the vast expansion of Christianity based on what Christ said, that's not Christianity anymore. That's some sort of hybrid bastardization of Christianity. And that's how Christianity got so fucked up. That's how it got to the state it is that people just assume these other interpretations of Christ to be accurate. And as you go along this path, it just gets more and more skewed as you go along, further and further into delusion, away from truth. You know, if Jesus were to come back now, no one would believe him. He could even like levitate, like even if you had video of someone levitating and flying around or performing miracles, no one would believe it, right? So the second coming of Christ, I'm going to get in some tread on some pretty well defended borders here and lines, but the second coming of Christ isn't a person. It isn't a physical manifestation of someone saying things and performing miracles and stuff, because no one would fucking believe it in this day and age, right? So uh, I believe that this theory and these messages is the second coming. It's Maya coming, the destroyer of illusion, and that is also the second coming. It's the truth that reveals all that's been false. So didn't Christ come? Didn't Christ come say that he would come back and kick ass? I think he said something like that, right? He Christ has come back. I understand what I'm saying. I do understand what I'm saying. Okay. And Christ is on this, the second coming is occurring as non conceptuality. not Roy Dobson. Let's get this fucking straight. I'm not a Messiah, but this, like, maybe prophet. I don't know if Messiah and prophet are the same thing, but it's the message. It's the message that's been left by God that has been revealed through non-conceptuality, that is the second coming of Christ. And Jesus agrees. But the people that will least understand and recognize the second coming is Christians, right? They're going to be the last people to recognize the second coming. So they're not part of the chosen few that are going to get teleported up into heaven without dying. It's you people. It's the non-conceptualists. Wow, that's heavy. I think the same applies for Jesus. I think Jesus made the mistake of allowing, this is good, allowing people to equate his physical form with divinity rather than the message. It's not, yeah. But again, our materialist perspective believes that the body, just like Ramana Maharshi, is what's important. And Ramana kept saying it has nothing, I'm not even the body. Like, that has nothing to do with Ramana Maharshi. But Christ's language, the way he says, if he said, no one comes to the Father but by me or through me, that one line has damaged Christianity more than probably any other thing that he's ever said. So I don't know why he would say such a thing. Unless he meant, like, he talked cryptically a lot. And I think what he meant by that is that no one can you have to realize your divinity through this physical realm, right? The physical body is the tool through which this mystery is revealed. And that's why technology, which is building tools to investigate this, is red herring, and it is the wrong path, right? So, and especially neuroscience, developing tools via mathematics and the thought in your head, right? The thoughts in people's heads are what's instructing them to construct the machines that project these, right? That we're making tools through technology to investigate the tool. And this is what God meant. This is what Christ meant, I believe, when he said, no one comes to the Father but through me. That meant the physical body. This is the tool that is required to figure this out. And neuroscience is a red herring, the entire thing. And this is what's got everyone so fucked up, is that everything's equated to electrical impulses in the brain, whether it's the voice in your head, whether it's sensations. And this is where it's all ambiguous now, and none of it makes any fucking sense anymore, because Maya thrives in ambiguity. So we just throw it all into a big set and call it consciousness now. And it's completely ambiguous. The word consciousness means fucking nothing. It has no utility anymore. Yeah, and that's why not just go with Ramana Maharshi? it's because Christ said, "No one comes to the Father but through me," right? Like that misinterpretation of what he meant by that means that it can't be any other human other than Christ, but it's the humanity itself, right? Your humanity is what is the tool that's required to figure this puzzle out. So it's not a human, it's your humanity. So it's not Ramana Maharshi, it's not Christ, it's not Buddha, it's you. It's your humanity that is the tool that is required. And investigating the tool is just a red herring and it's a distraction that has people completely off the path. So Maya's just going, I've got him. I've got him, right? Because they're trying to figure out the tool that's required to, instead of trying to figure out how to use the fucking tool, they're trying to figure out the mechanics of the tool. It's like, no, you're completely lost. Yeah, we need to know how to use the tool rather than trying to figure out how it works. Like that's turtles all the way, right? Like just using a mechanism that projects the illusion. All these, even the mechanical tools project the appearances that appear when you look through the tool, right, through the machine. And this is the same. This is a tool. It's a machine, a biological machine that projects the world, just like looking through a telescope projects that world. They're not necessarily even the same. Like there is no world there, right? This is what I'm getting at, is that there's no world there that's being detected. The world, that the appearance that arises looking through these machines, these mechanisms, is the appearance of the world. See, there's nothing there. It's being, if people would just understand that everything, that the world is being projected, not detected. If people would just understand that one sentence, instead of just, oh, well, that's a cute little saying, and then just go on to the next fucking YouTube video. The tools are projecting the appearance when interacted with awareness. When awareness interacts with the tool, that is the world that it projects. There's no world there that's being detected. I guess so. It's the tool using you. Well, no. It's just you misinterpreting the appearance that the tool generates to be real. It's only real, and it only exists while you look through that machine. Just like the Large Hadron Collider, they're not detecting things, they're projecting things. And that did not exist. It's not there apart from your interaction with the interaction of awareness with the Large Hadron Collider produces the appearance of those subatomic particles only while that interaction is taking place. It right? Yeah. Well, that's why Ramana Maharshi, that's That's the teaching. That's exactly it, Megan, is that at some point, at the final teaching is the stillness. Like after after the equation of the duality plus the equal sign, like of the triune system, once that has been formulated and understood, the answer is the stillness, right? The answer isn't another conceptual model. It isn't another concept. It's the transcendence of conceptualization into being, right? So that's the answer. The answer isn't written down somewhere. Oh, the answer is 42. No, the answer is so in order in order to break someone out of a delusion that symbol has caused, right? Symbol and language is projecting the illusion that causes the delusion. So you have to, if someone's in a delusion, you have to meet them in their delusion because they don't understand the reality. So that's why the number system, that's what the number system, the natural number system, and the fundamental model of reality, that's what it's doing. It's God has created these messages using symbol, right? So that the deluded recognizes the information as something only in so much as to break them out of the delusion that that very system is causing. But, and mathematics is the failure of consciousness to understand the message, right? And it just gets, it gets pulled into the delusion, right? It doesn't sink in. And then we come up with math, which is trying to understand what the message is actually saying, right? But it gets it, the delusion takes over, and it just becomes more delusion. It becomes part of the information. It's the information is on par with everything else in the delusion. It's not, yeah, it just gets caught up in the delusion and it's not recognized. And then we end up with mathematics and technology out of the delusion. So we just stick with symbol and we don't understand the symbols that are saying, hey, you've got to get away from symbol, right? You have to use symbol in order to say you need to turn your attention away from symbol, which is a really subtle, nuanced endeavor. And this is why it doesn't work for the vast majority of people, because the delusion is set in too deeply. I know, like the uncertainty principle is what the entire process was meant to reveal. It's finally it's like another message, like I believe it is. The uncertainty principle is another one of these messages implanted by the creator that's been misinterpreted. It's saying you're done. This is revealing that you've taken the wrong path, and yet they continue, right? Because the delusion is set so deeply. They don't want to stop. They don't want conclusion. They want to keep thinking because they don't know who they are. And then the way to find who you are is to transcend and find the stillness. So it's a catch-22 in a way. It's like, oh, we can't. It's like, it's so bizarre because physics revealed that physics can only ever know half and exactly half of the information required to conclude physics. So what do you do with that? Well, then you stop doing physics. You can't know half of something and then think that that's going to explain the thing. It's just straight out fucking reason that like a fucking 12-year-old has can reveal this. But again, it's because we're so deeply in delusion, and this delusion has been so deeply programmed through academia that no one can recognize it. Hardly anyone can recognize what's so obviously and easily just revealed to be bullshit. I mean, really, right? Like when the cult is all of academia, it's going to be really hard to deprogram that system, right? Like, because it's been completely accepted by all of humanity, right? School is one of the most important things. I mean, this is how deep the programming goes. So I understand why there's only 6 people here listening to this. I get it. Like that's almost proof that it's right. Credit points. Yeah, it's like collecting coins in Mario Brothers, thinking that that's the goal. No, like I said, I've gone over this. I've gone over this. It's entertainment. Like if this is fractal and holographic in nature, then we can't say when we use analogy, unfortunately, we have it reversed, right? We don't say it's not proper to say that reality is like a game or reality is like a puzzle or reality is like or the reason for life is like a labyrinth. No, a labyrinth is like what the meaning of life, right? So humans, if God created humanity in its image, so this is the holographic nature of that of that's why there's holograms. That's because God created humanity in its image. And so okay, so let's investigate humanity. What is humanity focused on the most? Who do we venerate the most? What kind of humans do we venerate the most? Our entertainers, our movie stars, our musicians, and our athletes, right? These are the people that we worship. So I believe that that's an indication that this entire thing is just for entertainment purposes. It makes the most sense to me. The why, it makes more sense than any other why explanation that I've ever heard. It's not necessary. Lots of people say, well, it's necessary, but it's not necessary. The dreamless sleep and the death state shows that it's not necessary, right? So to me, the answer to why this is because it's God's entertainment. And are you not entertained? So entertained means also interested, right? You're interested. And that doesn't mean that it's good, like you enjoy it necessarily. Like when this global warming thing hits its stride, like it's almost straight up now. And you then there's hardly any food in the grocery stores, and whatever food there is, you can't afford. So life becomes very interesting when you need to go out and try to compete for food, right? Now, is that entertaining? Well, it's interesting because it sure hell holds your interest, right? If someone's trying to break into your place and steal your food, or even worse, try to kill you and eat you, then you're going to be really interested and focused on shit. Yeah, but that's turtles all the way. Evolving to what? You're just evolving for the sake of evolving, right? So all of this makes complete sense to me is that the, it's a puzzle because God can't, one person can't play tennis with yourself. The way to entertain yourself would be to design a puzzle that's only half Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Even God doesn't know when shit's going to happen. So you design, can God, that's a philosophical question. Can God design a puzzle that it can't immediately solve. I say yes, but then there's also, and this is why there's acting, right? This is why there's pretending, is because there's a certain amount of playing along with the game, right? Like at any given time, even during the Super Bowl, one of these dudes could have just went, this is kind of ridiculous. And I'm just not going to play anymore and just walk off the field, change your clothes and go home and never play football again. But it's the Super Bowl and we're playing around. Everyone's playing along with the idea that it's really something important. And it's actually fucking ridiculous. Really, isn't it? Grown men trying to get an oddly shaped ball across beyond through the other guys. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it incorporates everything, right? This incorporates, it explains everything, because there has to be a certain degree of God just pretending that it can't immediately solve this puzzle, or that, I don't know, there's something about forgetting or acting or just playing along, pretending to such a degree that you actually forget and you get lost in the labyrinth. So the labyrinth is is self-realization. The labyrinth is the ego, and the puzzle and the mystery is to find out who you really are. So it's not a physical labyrinth where you need to get to the center or get out, whichever way. It's forgetting who and what you are at the most fundamental level, and then coming to the realization again of what you are. And I don't think that's a necessary process. No, not to preserve the game, to find conclusion of the game. That's what heaven is, that's what moksha is, that's what nirvana is, that's what Tao is the conclusion of the game, right? So a mystery is to be solved. A puzzle is to be completed. A labyrinth is to be escaped from. That's the point of it. So you don't, and the puzzle isn't to just keep puzzling. The puzzle is to complete the puzzle. If you're continuing to puzzle, then you haven't solved the puzzle, right? If you're still searching, then you haven't revealed the mystery. Yeah, the Maya is a personification of that state of ignorance, of ignoring the reality while you're focused on the illusion. Just like Maya is the force or condition of ignoring the reality because you're so focused on the video game, right? Playing a video game and forgetting, or watching a movie or reading a book, so that you lose awareness of your immediate surroundings. That's Maya. It's not like there's a chick out there, a god that's fooling people, right? That's a personification, a metaphor of, well, it's all metaphor, but a metaphor of the metaphor of playing a video game and losing yourself, or losing yourself in math, right? Losing yourself in thought. The losing part, that's Maya. And then the taking of the Maya to be real is samsara. Well, yeah, everything that's created is an illusion. You can't create reality. You can only create fractals and holograms of the reality. Yeah, this it's see, this is the problem is there's no way to describe, like, it's almost like the inflationary period in the at the Big Bang, at the moment of the Big Bang, right? It's like, how do you describe the movement from 0 to 1? You, fundamentally, there's no way to describe even really why that happened, right? I say it's the entertainment why 0 moved into, right? So I believe that the inflation period that Cosmos that's described is basically the attempt to movement from into the delusion from 0 to 1, right? That's an infinite. There's no that's an infinity, right? The movement from 0 to 1, you can't measure that, right? It's measured as 1. You know what I mean? Like you, you can't. And also the arising of time from timelessness. Well, how do you describe that, right? So it comes out as crazy mathematics, like the expansion of the expansionary part of the universe, right? You get what I'm saying, solution seeker, because that was crazy, right? The expansionary phase of the Big Bang is basically infinite. It's basically infinity that they're trying to explain. And so this is why I think that potential is a far more descriptive and robust word than nothing, because potential includes hmm, the being and the not being, right? There's potential to remain, and there's potential to change, right? So potential, that's how it fixes how does something come from nothing, because nothing, there's no potential for change in the word nothing, right? And that's why there's the paradox, how can something come from nothing, and why is there something as opposed to nothing? Yeah, see, this is poor Edward. He loves infinity, but his infinity of the number system is just infinite redundancy, right? So infinity, the infinity of potential, the infinity of the number system is a limitation of the infinity of the potential, right? It's placing limits on potential. So infinity is actually trying to limit and put boundaries on potential, which is boundless. So infinity isn't potential. Infinity is the manifestation of that potential. Well, again, the infinity, and the reason why mathematics goes on for infinity is because it's an incorrect interpretation of a message. So if you take the initial assumption, if you take that to be correct and it's incorrect, but you just take it to correct and just fucking go from there and never question it anymore, then that is a dog chasing its tail. It's Gödel's incompleteness theorem. It's showing Gödel's incompleteness theorem is basically proving my theory that mathematics is the incorrect interpretation of a message from God. So a message that's been designed by God is going to be the most densely packed with information that you can possibly fucking imagine, right? So the incorrect interpretation of that will go on for infinity. And Gödel's incompleteness theorem is proving it's half proving it requires Gödel's incompleteness theorem along with my theory that the evolutionary number system theory that mathematics is an incorrect interpretation of a message. Those in conjunction is proof that mathematics itself is one of these systems that Gödel's incompleteness theorem says we'll never know whether it's correct or incorrect, because it just goes on forever and you'll never properly interpret the message because the initial assumption is incorrect. So you're just going on, and that becomes increasingly abstract as it develops. But mathematicians are so mesmerized by it, by the pretty designs and patterns that they can conjure up from this message from God, is that they're too mesmerized to accept and see how it is what I say it is. It's incorrect. The whole fucking thing. Like, it's all right here. This is the first time in history that it's all right here. Like, fuck, man. I know I sound crazy, but look at where I fucking live. How can a crazy person live in a place like this? And how can a crazy person have a perfect life? Like, that is my final proof that my theory is correct. Is my very life is proof that my theory is correct, because only a madman would be saying the things that I'm saying, or a genius, right? Either I'm a messenger of God, or I'm a madman. And if I'm a madman, then how the fuck can I be living in a place like this and sitting around happy all fucking day? Is Chris Langan happy all day? Doesn't seem like a very happy dude to me. Meta mesmerized. Love it. Who? Come to look for me for what purpose? Hi, Kelly. Yeah. Callie knows I'm not crazy. Right, Callie? Yeah, we have discussions all the time about how not crazy I am. I know. $3 hours. Yeah. Whatever that means. Uh, the Essentia Foundation months ago, just out of just like that, instantly, basically, just because I said there was something wrong. I was pointing out something that was wrong with their theory, and rather than looking at it and discussing it with me, they just immediately blocked me, right? So that's someone who's really defensive, right? Like, this is a huge indication that, like, this is a red flag for this Bernardo guy. People need to realize that he's not open for discussion. Like, he has these discussions with people in these interviews and stuff, but you can guarantee that he's not adapting his view at all, right? He's not willing or capable of adapting his belief, because his, just like everyone else, his identity, his very identity, is based upon these beliefs. So it's like you're threatening his very existence if you threaten his belief systems. So he's got people fooled for sure that he is wise, but he's not. I've blocked someone, but he was obviously a nutcase. Like he was obviously literally insane. So it's like, no, there's no dealing with this person. Yeah. You know, in Bernardo's defense, I've heard that he's got tinnitus, and I've had tinnitus for just, maybe a week or whatever, but that really makes it difficult probably to try to get to stillness and silence. If there's a fucking ringing in your ear, like maybe that's what's prohibiting him from trying to meditate. And that's just the way it is. And the tinnitus is there for a reason too, right? It's not just, oh, poor Bernardo, he's got tinnitus. It's like, no, there's a reason why he's got tinnitus. And that's probably, he just wants to always have something that's distracting him from that constant buzzing in his ears. It's fucking, it's a bad condition. I know it's not a good condition. So maybe giving him the benefit of the doubt on that one. Paige keeps reminding me, is like, would you just remember, pretend that you're dealing with toddlers, right? You can't speak to them as if they're adults even. They're really, when it comes to their levels of self-awareness, they're incredibly immature, right? So but they use, the problem is that they have arrogance, right? And when there's arrogance attached to that ignorance, it really grates on me, right? Like I want to just kick him right in the freaking nuts, right? Like you speak in such a way, in such, with such arrogance, that it just frosts me. There's got to be a way to transcend tinnitus. There's a way to transcend like physical pain, for crying out loud, right? So the route for him to fix that is probably meditation. But again, it's really difficult, and people don't like doing things that are really difficult. Well, I have experienced tinnitus or tinnitus or whatever it's freaking called, the ringing in your ears. I've experienced that while I was in Nova Scotia at the Ramana Maharshi ashram. It was for a few days. It was like, kind of hope this goes away. And it did. I find it curious that that Bernardo Castro is a coward video. It's a minute and 36 seconds long, and it's what, a day or two old, and it's got like 500 views already. Is the algorithm pushing this on people? It must be. But it's interesting how something so like in your face and controversial as calling someone a coward just gets a higher rate of views than any other video I've ever made. It's right. I think the algorithm dissent, right? And negative connotations, I think, are probably powerful attractors. I found the right keyword. Yeah, or maybe I'll just include coward or Bernard Castrop in every one, in every title, or just title it Bernard Castro is a coward. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is that they're I never use those freaking keywords, right? I never use anything to promote anything that I do. So this is why it's growing so slowly, but I think it's growing organically, right? I think organic growth is the way to go. And you peeps are the manifestation of this non-conceptuality thing growing organically. Yeah, apocalypse. Yeah. Well, probably whatever is in the collective consciousness the most, if you type that keyword in, like World War III or fear or conspiracy and all this crazy shit that's going on. Well, I think it's time to go chop wood, carry water for this guy. Actually, it's throwing wood down the chute into the wood room, but it works for the saying, right? I'm not going to try to promote my stuff. We'll just let it grow organically. It's growing. You guys are the roots of non-conceptuality, right? So it all starts here. It you're the disciples, not disciples of me, disciples of the message. And this is the second coming. It's that big of a deal. And don't ever believe that it's not as big of a deal as it is. Just know it. Know that this is what it appears to be, which is the final concluding truth. All right, guys. This was a good one. I really like this one. Must be because of all the coffee I drank. A little bit more coffee than usual. All right. Thanks, guys. See you next weekend.